Hi, my name is Ian and welcome back to my channel, and this is my series, My Take, where I offer my own opinion or perhaps a different opinion to situations here in New Zealand and throughout the world. Today I thought I would cover rich and elite Maori and poor New Zealand Europeans. Now, it is no secret that over the years many Maori have struggled financially or with education, maybe their health care, maybe in terms of criminality, etc. But we've created, over the last couple of decades, I would probably say, if we're being blunt about it, we've created this thing where all Maori are treated as though they're oppressed and they're victims, when clearly they're not. I know some that aren't personally myself, and I can give you 3 or 4 people off the top of my head who are Maori who are not victims. But anyway, that's the mantra we've rolled with it for the last couple of decades in this country. But we've also rolled with the decade that white people are the villains, white New Zealanders are the oppressors. What happens when you start using these two things as the narratives? It becomes ingrained in everybody. Everybody, whether we all admit it or not, we all believe it. We all sit there and believe that, oh well, this Maori's had a struggle with this. It must be because of society. It must be because of, colonisation, the New Zealand white man, etc. Or this white person has a good, decent job or owns a house. So therefore, that must prove that society is tailor-made to suit them, that they're the oppressor. But the problem with that is they're generalistic statements and philosophies. Like I said, am I going to sit here and tell you that there aren't Maori who are oppressed? Of course not. Am I going to tell you that there aren't rich, well-off, well-educated New Zealand European? Of course not. But here's what I want to more look at. What about the other way around? Okay, yes, we do acknowledge that there are rich and successful Maori. But very rarely do our governments and many citizens acknowledge that there are poor or oppressed or uneducated, struggling New Zealand Europeans, because it's just not a done thing over the last 2 decades in New Zealand, is to sit there and go, well, like this New Zealander is struggling, so he must be struggling, this New Zealand European, because of something he did. It's not he's struggling because he's growing up, in a low decile area. It's not he's struggling because, of a hardship due directly or indirectly due to society. But look at the reverse way we treat it. If I grow up poor, it's my fault. It's my problem at least. It's just my tough luck. How unfortunate. Or same with if I'm uneducated. It's my fault I failed school, which I know it is, and I openly admit it, But also, or that, I had a couple of addiction issues when I was younger. Again, that's my fault. But let's be blunt here. If a Maori kid fails school, right, we don't sit there and go, oh, well, how did the Maori kid fail school? Did he maybe fail because he was wagging at the local mall? Oh no, no, it can't be that reason. It must be he failed because of colonialism, or he failed because of society. And once you start treating it that way, one, it makes it hard for Maori in general to learn to take personal responsibility, because hey, why would you need to take responsibility for something when you can just blame everybody else for your problems in life? But you know, it's sad that we've actually been teaching Maori that, and that we've been teaching Europeans that they're to blame for all the Maori. Now, am I saying there haven't been dodgy stuff with the treaty? No. But let's also talk about things like the Kohimarama Covenant in 1860. That needs to be discussed when everybody talks about the treaty too. It's often forgotten. But anyway, we end up with successful Maori, like, a lot of these ones that are in politics. They're certainly not oppressed, victimised Maori, are they? That's not to say none of them grew up poor and didn't have a successful life, but they are not oppressed, and so when they whinge about being oppressed, it makes a mockery for the people who are oppressed, and like it or not, it starts leading to mass judgment from everyone else in society. Whether that's fair to do it or not is I suppose up for, personal opinion. But when you keep sitting there, when you keep sitting there having, say, a couple of Maori politicians going, oh, but we're oppressed, Maori this, and I'm struggling with that and that. And we all know that that particular Maori has probably sits in the top 5% in the entire country. It kind of blows the I'm an oppressed Maori out the back door, doesn't it? But what about we look at this the other way? Because we've created this view that, white New Zealanders, Pākehā New Zealand Europeans as I call them, are well off. What do you think subsequently happens to the people who aren't, New Zealand Europeans who are well off? And bear in mind, when any of us who have grown up poor or uneducated or destitute mention it, we hear excuses from people. Oh, but that's not what we mean when we claim people are white and privileged. It is what you mean. You dismiss people because you don't believe it, or don't personally ever want to admit that by believing all whites are privileged, you're going against the narrative and you're scared you're going to lose your jobs. That's why nobody says anything about it. Nobody wants to get branded a racist. No one wants to be openly hassled in public for saying it. But let's be honest here. There are probably, on a numerical basis, there are probably just as many New Zealand Europeans who live in the same poverty as Maori do. And yes, while everybody bags Labour for not acknowledging this stuff, the last Labour government especially, let's be honest, over the last 20 years or so, I would say that National have been just as bad for it. I don't recall John Key a lot of the time bending over to make sure that the poor white New Zealander got looked after. I might be wrong, but I think that's another reason why myself and plenty of other people out there voted for National Act and New Zealand First this time, because while they acknowledge that there are many Maori who struggle, they also acknowledge that there are many people of other ethnicities. And I'm not just referring to Pacific Islanders or immigrants. I'm also referring to New Zealand-born European here as well, who also struggle with the same situations. And I think having a government that actually acknowledges that, I think, is one of the many reasons why people voted for them. But I also think it's sadly left people sitting there brandishing them as racists and bigots. Why? Why are they a racist and a bigot? For acknowledging the poverty of everybody. Like, are we too scared as an actual country to turn around and admit that there are probably just as many white people who live in poverty in this country as there are Maori? I mean, like I've said, does anyone in this country ever deny that there isn't poverty within the Maori culture? No, of course not. But you don't often hear too many people openly going on about, New Zealand Europeans living in poverty. Again, another example of this would be an American example, right? Where, for example, and I think they've sort of scrapped it in most states now, affirmative action, right? Where they would say, sit there and give poor or disadvantaged, say, black kids a leg up to get to university. Okay, cool, that's great. But the poor white kid, say maybe someone living in the trailer park who might qualify for uni, would not get given the same leg up to get to uni. They had to sit there. If they were a struggling student academically, they had to sit there and hope that they were good at sports or art or music, something of that, like a good events coordinator, something like that where you could actually sit there and use your skills for another situation. But again, because they are living under the same thing as we do, where it's perceived that by default white people are privileged and the black person is oppressed. Now, yes, they have far more race issues than we've ever had. Let's be honest here. And again, am I saying there aren't genuine, legitimate racists in New Zealand? Of course not. But let's be honest here. There are plenty of people who are probably Maori who are just as racist as those plenty of white people out there who are racist. In fact, there's probably about the same amount of people. I bet you there's just as many Maori racists. Can I actually prove it? No. But then again, I've never met a genuine white supremacist in my life either. Again, am I denying there aren't any in the country? Hell no. But again, words like racist get bandied around because, it's too easy to bandy it around instead of addressing, like I said, the fact that there are as many New Zealand European who struggle as there are New Zealand Maori who struggle. And I think maybe if we started, say, being realistic about it and going, right, if you are, say, a top social economic earner, stop whinging or complaining about how oppressed you are, right? And also, if you are a poor and uneducated New Zealand European, you shouldn't be just shut off and dismissed, or have people say, we don't mean that when we say that you're advantaged. That is what people mean. Let's be honest here, let's be blunt here. When somebody says, that's not what we mean, when somebody says, well, I'm a poor white person, they go, oh, it's not what we mean. It is what they mean. That is a fact. That is exactly what they mean. They don't want to actually acknowledge it because, like I said earlier in the video, we have made everybody over the last 20 to 25 years in this country believe that, all Maori are oppressed, they're all victims, all this stuff has happened to them, you know, and all New Zealand white people are the offenders and the villains, and they are the cause of every difficulty every Maori in New Zealand has. And maybe it's about time we stop doing that. We also maybe should start encouraging many Maori to look at their own culture a bit. Do you maybe fail school because of the white man? Or are there things within your own culture? You know? Do you have poor health because of the white man? Or is it things within your own culture? You know? But, like I said, unfortunately we have this thing where Maori are oppressed, white people are the oppressor, and, you know, and there can't be any possible reasons for any differences. But not only that, if in the unlikely event there are some of us out there who actually acknowledge and accept that there are New Zealand European who struggle the same way as Maori, right? Or many Maori, I should say, you know, they still get far, far less assistance from like government agencies. Like, because again, this comes back down to what we've actually drummed into people. And when you keep drumming it into people time after time after time after time after time, people start believing it. Whether it's fair to believe it or not, you know, whether some of it's embellished or not, if you keep telling it often enough, people eventually believe it. You know, it would be like an example I used earlier in one of my other videos, where if you keep telling people that tomato sauce is green or blue or something, eventually you are going to end up with a percentage of the population who legitimately believe that tomato sauce is blue, or that the grass is bright pink, or that, you know, I don't know, anything else, or that black is white and white is black, sort of. Like, it alters people's perceptions. But what it does is it actually creates a lot of anger and frustration. And again, I think this is why our government got in this time, is because they acknowledged that, you know, that oppression and victimization, or being a person who's poor at learning or coming from an abusive household, can be something that is not ethnic based. It can just be how it is. Like, you know, you can grow up in generational poverty if you're a New Zealand European, you know. You can grow up in an abusive household if you're a New Zealand European. You can, you know, grow up in a drug-addicted house if you're a New Zealand Asian, etc. Like, and I think that's the thing. Our government this time seem like, you know, I'll give them a bit of a chance first to prove it, but they seem like they're at least willing to acknowledge that all people, or any person of any ethnicity, can have the same struggles as anyone from any other ethnicity. You know, and unfortunately, there are many people in this country, more the people who are like the socialists and progressives, who sadly consider that as a racist view, to actually consider the fact that if a Maori and a New Zealand European both are struggling the same way financially and both need housing assistance, that they seem to consider it, you know, some form of racism to give both of them the same housing assistance, because they want to see the Maori get the housing assistance and for some reason, because they're so obsessed with the fact that New Zealand Europeans automatically are given an advantaged, privileged, easy, no problem lifestyle, they therefore don't want to see the white person or New Zealand European given anything. And if they do, they expect it to be maybe 1/10 to 1/12 of what the Maori is entitled to. Anyway, that's all I was going to say about, you know, rich, well-off, well-educated Maori and oppressed and struggling white New Zealanders. I hope I've taught everybody something anyway. As usual, guys, I welcome your feedback, and please leave your comment. Please leave some comments. But as usual, be respectful, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye.